Howdy. Thanks for stopping by Workshop Wasteland once again. Oh man, that's loud. Holy cow, that's loud. Do you hear that? Oh my goodness. Whew. That's so much better. Thank goodness we made the muffler in this week's video, and it turned out fantastic. All brass construction, a little bit of soldering, ended up with a really nice muffler. We're also going to make the set of gears that proved to be a bit difficult for me. This one turned out perfect, as you can see. Very, very nice gear. This one, on the other hand, not so much. You can see by the discolored part of it there. My cutter was terribly dull. I got it off of eBay. I bought the two that I needed for these gears, and it was terrible. However, I'm waiting for a replacement, and I have this new gear whipped up, ready to be machined. Also made an arbor to fit into my spin indexer, which you'll see later on in the video. This worked out really well to hold these two gears. And unfortunately, this was kind of a huge waste of brass. It's not completely wasted. I can turn these teeth off and, potentially use it for a different project. But luckily, I had some more material. This is actually bronze, and this one was brass, but this is now bronze, which might be better, might be worse. Either way, thanks for stopping by, checking out the video. I want to apologize in advance. There is a little bit of time lapse in this video, and the reason being, when you're machining brass, it makes the most god-awful sound. I'm confident you didn't want to listen to that. I threw some different music in because there's a little bit more. Hopefully you like the music. If not, I apologize for that as well. Let me know down in the comments if you think music like that is better than the kind of slow, soothing stuff that I have been using. Either way, I'm good with whatever. I can listen to any kind of music. But like I said, the sound that brass makes when you're back here turning it on the lathe is god-awful. You're going to hear it a little bit in the beginning. I turned the volume down on that just to kind of be like, hey, this is what it sounds like. But understand that it's loud, at least in my experience. Maybe on other machines it's different. Maybe it's the cutters that I'm using. I don't know. Either way, I know you didn't want to listen to that for the next 10 minutes of the first part of the video. So enjoy the time lapse, enjoy the music. Let me know if I should do something different. We'll see you next week. All right, let's give this muffler a try, see what we can come up with. We're going to braze this tube into here. I'm going to go a little bit further. Alright, I think that will look about right for that tube. We can always turn that down a little bit if we need to, so we should be fine there. Now we're going to cut the taper on the back side, which is great for you. You'll have the bird's eye view here on the camera. So let's see how this goes. I don't have great success turning tapers, so we'll see how it goes. And I'm going to run the lathe in reverse, which is not really recommended, let's say, because this chuck can unscrew the back plate back here on the chuck.
threads onto the spindle, but it's good and tight. I'm going to take very light cuts. We should be just fine. Should have no problem getting away with this, but just keep that in mind. It's not something you're supposed to do. Alright, well, here goes nothing, I guess. That's not horrible, other than the terrible surface finish that it left. See if we clean this up a little bit. Yeah, I don't like that. It didn't do a very good job. Alright, I think that'll work just fine. I at least hope it'll work just fine. Alright, lovely. Our little stub fits in there, which is just what we needed. So now we can part this off. To do that, I'm going to make sure my tool post is pretty square here. Okay. Alright, I don't have my parting blade sticking out quite far enough, and I don't want to move it, so I'll use a hacksaw to cut that off the rest of the way. Alright, I got this piece cut off and silver brazed into that little pipe that we made. Now we're going to drill a hole through this. The plan calls for a 13/64 drill. And we're going to run this all the way through. That seems like an awfully small hole for this. Alright, there's our hole bored through it. Now we can turn the taper on the inside. Alright, now we can just go to town boring this. Alright, surface finish simply doesn't matter because it's the inside, and once this is put together, no one will ever see it. So I think we call that pretty darn good. Alright, now we'll throw our stock back in, and we need to turn the outside taper. No, I'm sorry, we need to turn the inside taper, not the outside. Because once we solder this together, then we'll turn the outside. Alright. There's that piece, and it is hot. So there is our inside taper. And then this is going to get soldered together, something like that. But I'm going to make some little spacers to space that out. And we'll have a muffler. We have to turn the outside taper after I get it soldered. Alright, so here's what I'm going to try. I made some little buttons. These are about 50 thousandths thick. I've fluxed them, and as you can see, I have solder beside all of them. Now what I'm going to do is put a little dab of solder on top of each. I'm actually going to flatten these out too. So I'm going to put a little dab of solder on top of each. Again, it's fluxed as well. And don't take notes yet, because I don't know if this is going to work or not. It's kind of a trial and error, but I'm hoping I can get this together and not have to use bolts. I think it'll be a much cleaner, a much cooler look. It may or may not work, but there's no harm in trying. Because if you're scared to try new things, you're never going to learn anything, and I like to try and learn something new on every single project that I do. So now here's our top piece. And that's all going to sit together something like that. May or may not work, but we're going to find out right now. Going to back the camera up a little bit. Alright. If that holds, it worked. I doubt you can see that, but on this little button right here, I can see the silver solder line. I think you can actually see that on camera. So I'm going to let that cool off and we'll see if it held together. Over here in the better light, I think you can probably see the solder there. It melted. I'm going to take a cut across here and see if it holds together. So cross your fingers and I guess hope for the best here. Let's see what happens. So this might not be the world's best camera angle, but this is the trajectory path right here if this flies apart. And I really don't want my camera to get hit if it flies apart. But here we go. Alright, that worked. So far so good anyways. As you can see, we got that cut all the way across there. Now we have to turn the taper on the outside. Alright, just cutting the taper here on this. Alright. There is you a hit and miss engine muffler. It's probably not absolutely perfect. Maybe could have done things slightly better, but you know what? I'm really happy with that. I think that turned out super cool. Of course, I'm going to clean this little nub off of there, and I think that will be it. Polish it all up, and voila! There is a muffler. Alright, so I whipped up this gear in the lathe. It was a super easy turning operation. I made a mandrel, and I'm going to try and cut the 20 teeth with my spin indexer. I've never used this for gear cutting before, so we're going to give it a try here and see how it goes. I think I am going to cut into my arbor a bit as I go, which is completely okay. I made it to be, you know, kind of a one-time thing anyways, so we'll see how this goes. We need to come in till we touch, first off. Which is there. And then we need to go in 62 thousandths. And then lock the table. And we'll cut the first tooth.
Alright, so 18 holes or 18 divisions is what we need to do for each tooth. So I'm going to time lapse through this. Alright, there's our gear. I'm going to run into our first tooth real quick just to see how accurate we were. If everything went the way it was supposed to. That looks pretty darn good. Let's check that. Yeah. Basically cut nothing. So, that's perfect. There you can see the gear on the mandrel. Looks like the cutter did a pretty good job overall. I'm happy with that.